Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. This is the first time we are doing this, so it's kind of weird not to be able to see it live.
Yeah,
But hello, everybody, and thank
yeah,
you
I
for
think so.
attending the new workshops. Here I'm with Federico Germán. We are going to be driving the following course and probably a few more courses over the following weeks. So Fede, thank you for
Yeah,
helping me with
live.
this.
Yeah. Thank you for everything with you. And remember, this is our first live, so be patient, please.
Yeah, thank you. And these workshops are aimed to display on how to use ChatGPT and generative technologies in our everyday jobs as developers. Today we are going to focus on ChatGPT and the OpenAI's APIs, right? And also we are going to display one of the tools that we have been developing over the last few months, to be able to iterate our prompts and to collaborate on prompting. And over the next few weeks, we are also going to deliver some other prompt related workshops where we are going to try to use LLMs and ChatGPT, etc., to develop applications or maybe do a POC or integrate some kind of functionality into another existing application, for example. So we hope that you like them and you find them helpful. We are going to try to guide you in the things that we learned over the last few months. As I said, we have been working a little bit on AI to try to keep the pace on the new technologies that are emerging. So yeah. Um, Okay, so this is the first workshop, as we said, and we are going to focus on LLMs and ChatGPT for this one, exactly on how to prompt ChatGPT, what techniques, what things are probably needed to be taken into account whenever you are talking with the chat. Um, and yeah, all the things that we are going to discuss here are aimed more for ChatGPT, but also we are going to be you could use them for other LLMs. Fede, I don't know if you want to add something
Yeah,
to us.
mainly that first, this first workshop is focused on the basic stuff. So if you've been working with ChatGPT or some other LLMs, you're probably going to find this kind of boring, but maybe you will find that we give you a good tip that you haven't heard about. And well, when we talk about AIs and prompting, right now we're going to focus on ChatGPT, but you have to remember that there are other LLMs and there are other models that work with like text to video, text to image, and they all have other techniques for prompting. This is focused on LLMs and ChatGPT mainly, right?
Exactly. So yeah, one other thing that we are going to see in this workshop is that we are going to use prompt tree. Prompt tree is what you are seeing right now in your screen. Prompt tree is a spin-off, you could say, of the UI of ChatGPT. It looks almost the same, at least up to 1 week ago, because they changed a little bit on their UI. But what you can do with prompt tree that you cannot do with ChatGPT is to iterate over prompts, right? For example, let's say that I want to ask something. Um, let's just do ask something. I want to just to show you the UI. What prompt tree is going to do is to display this over here, and this is a concept that we brought from Git, right? Actually, Prompt3 combines the idea of ChatGPT and ChatGPT conversations with Git, right? So what we have here is the history of the chat that we are having right now. For example, here we have a complete rundown of the workshop that we are going to be showing today, and here you see where we have all the prompts that we are going to be running and all the iterations. And this actually provides a way where you can fork chats and you can share them publicly, for example, also create new branches and etc. You are going to see how this works and why this is helpful over the course of the workshop. And yeah, you can use this. This is actually open source and free. You can fork it on GitHub and iterate over it, or maybe deploy it in your local machine, whatever you want. The only thing that you need is an OpenAI's API key right now to use it. And we are going to provide some other alternatives, like adding some kind of LLM that doesn't need an API key to run, but for the moment the only way to use it is with an API key from OpenAI. Okay, so let's go to the first step of the workshop. Fede, we are going to start with principles, right?
Yeah, right. So these principles are like different techniques and tips that are mainly developed by the community. It's not like they are embedded in the model. The model just have the training weights, and these techniques that are going we are going to show you just provide us a way to get us the model to behave the way we want to. The model behaves run it's not deterministic, so we are not going to get the same result even though we use the same prompt. So with these techniques, what we're trying to do is like get a framework where we can get mainly the same result for the same prompt, right? So let's start about with the first principle. JC, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, we are going to talk about grammar at first. Actually, if you have been interacting with ChatGPT, I guess that you already know that you don't actually need to be really specific on your wording whenever you chat with it. Um, but if you want to get consistent results, the grammar is actually something that is really needed to be taken into account. Let me share with you some examples here in ChatGPT. We are going to show you a little bit of examples in ChatGPT. For the rest, we are going to use views in Prompt3. But the idea behind why this can fail starts from here. Here I asked for just a simple JSON list of 10 countries, and I got actually the list, but I got an explanation from the chat, right? Not just the list, but the chat gave me an explanation. So let's say that I'm using this in an API or something, and I want to ask this JSON list to later parse it with some kind of code or whatever. This will break, right? Because I have to sanitize the output before I will need to extract the JSON from the response. So it could be a hassle. So later, what I do is to actually explain the chat that I want only a JSON response, and I want it to avoid any kind of explanation. If you see here carefully, actually the response is the same, right? Maybe change something a little bit, but it's almost the same. And the change in the, I mean, if you see, if here carefully, I worded here very wrongly. Explanation is explanation, right? Without that I. So here I iterated one more, and if you see here, it works perfectly. I mean, it didn't even add the markdown. Whenever the chat outputs a markdown, is because it's adding these kinds of ticks on before and after. We are going to discuss about formatting later, but this is something that is also annoying whenever you are working with responses from LLMs in code, right? So yeah, and the idea behind why this is doing this, because actually if I copy this, right, let's say that I copy this thing on promptly, I mean, maybe it could fail, but it's going to, yeah, most of the times it just renders the JSON format straight away. And the reason for that is that we are using actually the API, right, from ChatGPT. This is the API that we are using, and and the model that they are providing here to use ChatGPT as, I mean, the GPT technology in a chat as a vendor or as a third party, right, is through this API, and they provide a way for you. Let me show you this in the playground. This playground from them is actually using this API, um, and they provide this system message. This system message is the way that the chat interacts with you, right? Later on, we are going to discuss what is role prompting, and this is related to that. But the main difference between Prompt 3 and ChatGPT, and that's why we wanted to discuss this early on, is that maybe there is some message here, some system message in the chat GPT that will add some bias to the responses. So maybe the system message is something like, you have to be helpful and give explanations on how you achieved something, or maybe reply with rephrasing the question, right? So to make it more semantically correct, or maybe to make it easier for the user to read. So that system message is not present here in the API, and that is what we are using in Prompt 3, and that is why the responses from Prompt 3 are going to be different. But summarizing, the idea is that wording, depending on the context, is actually really important. You have to be consistent with your wording whenever you are writing something that you want to be repeatable. Fede, do you want to continue with any other
Yeah,
the
let's
next
go
principle?
with clear and specific instruction, right? So when you talk to the ChatGPT or in any case any other model, you have to be clear and specific with your instructions so you get the result you want. When I say clear and specific, it doesn't mean to be short. You can have a really long prompt. In fact, when if you have been keeping up with all what's going on, you probably heard about AutoGPT, and AutoGPT uses a really long prompt because it has a lot of instructions, but those instructions are really clear. So let's go for example, let's say we want to write an email to address a problem. So I don't want to write it by myself. I just want to have a model of an email. So I'm going to write. So let's say uh, complaining. No, sorry, sorry, I made a mistake. But let's say we want to write the mail complaining about the state of the street, right? It's probably going to give us an okay mail. It's right, a generic mail, but this is not for us. We don't want it to be so generic. We want to be more specific. So I'm going to add a little more instructions to make it more fit to our problem. So let's say mm, let's say that I want to modify this and add some context. So when you talk to the model, you have to remember that it probably can be separated in a couple of stuff. Principle mainly the instruction that you give it. You want to write an email, you want to make a summary, you want to, I don't know, to classify something, and you have to add some context. In this case, I'm going to add like the name of the street, and maybe that this is the first time, the third that I'm complaining. So it can use the tone about this is the first time, the third time, and maybe, well, let's go with this. So you see, as you see here, we have a little more like a model that it's using the context that we gave it, so it writes a letter more fit to my problem. But I still don't like this, it's too long, I want to make it shorter. So let's try something else. i'm going to I'm going to tell it and make a uh, short mail. Okay, some instruction. Sorry. Uh, as you see here, it's probably going to make it shorter, but when I say short, it's related to what? It doesn't know the model is short, or maybe if I said a couple of paragraph or some wording that doesn't describe a specific length, it's going to give us whatever it thinks that it's short. So maybe if the good way to do it would be to put, and instead of make it short, uh, mm, make it use no more than maybe than 60 words. And like this, it's going to make it really fit to what I want. I wanted a short mail that talks about my problem, and it really gets to the point, right? So with this, we can add context, we can add really details that of what we want to get to. Sorry to interrupt, but as we didn't say it earlier, but if you have any questions during what we're talking about, you can send it on the chat, and we're going to try to stop anytime in the workshop and try to answer those questions. JC, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, can you share that with me so I can
Okay,
change some things and show
I'm going to
formatting on top of that?
make it public.
What we can do with prompt 3 is to share these conversations. Now Fede is going to share this chat that he had. Share it through the YouTube chat,
Ah,
Fede,
sorry.
please.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
so everybody
Um,
can iterate over it. Um, and what I want to show now is that we can start to see some kind of structuring on the side of on the side of wait that I'm finding the link. Okay, I have it now. Um, 1 second, sorry. Okay. Um, okay, amazing. So now I have the link that Fede created. Here is his picture. So we are seeing what he was seeing, right? And now I can fork it, right? As the same that we have with GitHub, right? For example, actually he had been here branching all the interaction that he had with the chat. Now we can fork this and create a fork of his chat, and that I can now interact with, right? So if for anybody who entered the link and now is playing with this, you have to log in order to fork it and then to play around. And also you have to configure an API key that you can get from OpenAI. Okay, amazing. What I want to show you is that we can structure this prompt in a way that it will be easier to modify and keep iterating. Like for example, the objective of this, right, is to write a mail complaining about the state of the street, right? So we are going to just put objective here, objective. Okay, that's it. And then we are going to add context to this objective. And the context we are going to give it in separated by these lines. Also, this limit we are going to put it as a constraint. Actually, all these words that we are using, they are not reserved words. They are just convenient and the way that, for example, I like to work with these kind of things, right? Whenever you want, I mean, if you just commit this, and let's go with the branch naming that Fede was using. So principle 5, we can go here. Okay. What we are doing there is to branch and then commit, right? So every commit will have a branch and then we can navigate through all the versions. That's why we keep on branching and naming. Okay, so here you see that we have the same. I mean, the output didn't change. Maybe the content changed a little bit because we know that ChatGPT is not deterministic. I mean, it's always going to generate something different when you ask for several words. So the only thing that we change is the way that we are writing this. But what we can do now that we have this is to add more things, and it's on a structure that we can play around a little bit better. For example, I want to format the output, right? And let's say that we want to use this as a template. Let's say that for the all of, because this is the third complaint, I guess that we are going to have a fourth and a fifth and a subsequent um, complaints about the streets not being fixed. So we want to make all the names of the streets and, for example, all the things that appear in the mail to be replaceable with placeholders, right? So maybe we can add over here output, right? And in the output we can add that we want that uh, every variable in the email should be a placeholder. For example, right, where we can use these kinds of curly brackets to explain like this, and this will is going to be understood by the model. Um, we can give every variable as such as, because we have to give examples, right? As Fede said, we have to be really specific on the details on what we want the model to do. So, for example, such as streets, names, and that's okay. And we can give branch commit and then principle 5, 6. Let's see what it does. Okay, it didn't replace the name of the street. We can maybe iterate one more time and try to get this also to be in curly brackets. But I guess that you get the idea. After we have this template, we can replace these variables, right, with some kind of software, or maybe we can do it manually. Fede, I think that you have to mute yourself. um, Okay, so after that, after this formatting, what we can do, um, actually, yeah, no, that's okay from my end. Fede, do you want to continue with the formatting?
Yeah, please show me what you were doing, please.
Yeah, let me do this as public because we have some steps more to do with this email, but I'm going to pass it on to Fede.
So let's go here. Great. So, as you were talking about the outputs, I was thinking about maybe I need like to put in on an HTML, right? So I'm going to for here, and I don't want to work with your this is a result because I'm going to send this email and I want to make it look nicer, maybe in my email editor. So I'm going to modify this and use here. I'm going to change this output and use H8 mm, the output and use tags for the titles and maybe bold important parts. I'm going to go with Principle 7. Oh. So as you see, I'm going to get an HTML result, and this you are going to see that is completely perfect markdown. And let's check this out to see if this works. Okay, so I only got like the title for with the title tag, but I could use maybe a little more detail to ask for the parts that I want to highlight. But you can do this with any kind of structure output that maybe an HTML, Markdown, JSON, YAML, whatever you think about, and you can use this to generate a lot of different documents that could be really useful. So, Juan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Let me build on onto that. Whenever we talk about structure outputs and formats, we can go a little bit farther. For example, the other day I needed to render to generate a README, right? So I asked the chat. For example, we can start with objective, right? We are going to continue with the format that we were using, and we are going to ask for a README. So write me a README file in Markdown format uh, for prompt project that combines ChatGPT and Git. Okay. I will provide because what I want to provide is the package JSON, right? So it knows what libraries and what commands it uses, and so it can take that into account to generate the README. I will provide the package JSON file to give more context, and that's the idea. And we add this package this context. We add some lines here to wrap the package JSON. Then we put something like package JSON, and let me copy it or here. Uh, and I will going to remove some things like, for example, the dev dependencies because it's not really needed. Okay, and let's see what it does with this. Okay, so we are getting this README that it's okay, right? We get some code on how to run it, and it seems pretty decent. Okay, so the problem here, if you see, is that I cannot copy this, right? Because if I copy this, I will copy it as plain text, and it doesn't work because I have to work more. I will need to maybe know how to make this kind of title using Markdown, etc. So maybe what we can do is to iterate this and change some things. Like for example, we can put over there that output. We want something like wrap the response in these tags, right? So what and this works for the for prompting and also for ChatGPT. Whenever you wrap the responses in these three ticks, what it's going to do is to generate everything as if it were this kind of text, right? So we are going to see. Um, Actually, we can just run it and see it. Iteration one. Okay, it didn't work. It didn't took the input. Wait, we can actually. It's okay. I mean, this is prompt to fail. Actually, it didn't fail. I wasn't clear enough with my instructions. I'm going to copy something that I know that it usually works. So we are going to generate the response in Markdown, but wrap it in these three things. So let's commit it. Actually, if you see here, now we are going to do something that we didn't did yet. That is commit without branching. Okay, and now it's working. But it should fail actually. Okay, it generated something different, so it didn't fail. Okay, amazing. What we have now is that we move the branch to a new commit, right? We cannot go back here. If we wanted to check the previous output, we should generate a new branch. But okay, let's now ask to something to break it, right? Because what I needed is is what it generated before that we had right here, like these pieces of code. So we are going to ask for that. Uh, Give me some pieces of code in commands that, or give me the instructions to run the code locally, to clone and run the code locally. Okay, let's try with that. Okay, amazing. This is what we wanted. If you see there, the markdown is breaking, right? Because we have this npm run dev and cd prompt 3 install, etc. That are actually wrapped in these three dots, these three ticks. So we cannot copy it because it's breaking the markdown. So what we can ask is the model to actually replace those ticks with something different to escape that issue. So I'm going just to, for the sake of time, I'm going to just to copy this. This is just a sentence. To wrap any piece of code with this instead of these three dashes, these three ticks. So as we said, these things are being wrapped with this, and since we have this opening and this closing, is breaking the code. So let's try again and see what happens. Here we can commit it iteration 2, and hopefully it should work. It didn't. Okay, it's as we said, it's prompt to fail. But for the sake of time, I'm going to show you something that we have already seen that worked once, and it's over here. So first we had this breaking, right, where we ask for some code to run to give us some code to run with to run promptly, and then we asked for the response to replace any occurrence of these three ticks with the three dashes, and it worked as we wanted. Later on, we can just copy this. For example, I can copy this in VS Code and then put it in VS Code and then replace all these three dashes with the three ticks, and that should work as we desire. Um, Okay, Fede, do we? That's it, right? In the terms of principles. Um,
Yeah and not,
yeah,
because we have the most important principle of all that we
yeah,
have been using without telling about, that is iteration. As you see here, all prompts are being built on top of a first intent or first try. It's really difficult that you get what you want on the first try. You might get it if you really want a simple task, but for when the task began to be more complicated, you need to start trying different things, because as you see, it's not deterministic. You won't get always the same result. So you will have to try the instructions and iterate over them to get to the result that you really want.
yeah, exactly. Iteration is key in order to generate the best prompt and the prompt that always will perform whenever you need it. Um, there is no there is no way to achieve a perfect prompt from the scratch. I mean, if you manage to do that, okay, but but the perfect form for a task is always it always relies in you iterating and trying different things. And actually we are going now to discuss some approach on how you can prompt, right? Because now what we discussed are just principles or little things that you have to take into account whenever you are writing a prompt. But now we are going to discuss something further, um, something more complex about how to communicate and how to structure your prompts and how to process, so how to make the chat or the LLM process whatever you are asking for. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start with the first method, role prompting?
Yeah, we can start with the first method then. We are going to talk about role prompting. I guess that you saw this. Well, maybe you saw somewhere that you can, for example, when Fede asked for the email, right? We just ask for it, right? And the LLM just replied with the email that we wanted, and then we added some more details, etc. But we didn't give any background on who is writing that email, or or how angry you are. Maybe since it was the third email, you should be angry, right? So maybe you can ask for that. So all those ideas come towards the idea of role prompting. You give some role to the AI to play whenever you prompt. So let me share with you. Um, let's reply to the email that Fede generated, right? So this was the email that Fede generated. I just added my name at the end, and I just have this objective to write the response for the email. Let's just do this like we were some representative of the town administration and we wanted to reply to this email. So let's see what happens. Okay. So it says that it forwarded the email to the appropriate apartment. I mean, it didn't take into account anything about this was the third complaint. I mean, maybe it's okay, right? Just a basic reply of whatever email. So what we are going to do now is iterate, right? As we said, iteration is key, and we are going to add some context over here. Um, what we thought for this is to just give it a spin. I'm going to copy just an idea on how we can use some role to reply to this. And the role that we choose is a lawyer. And the lawyer is a representative for the city hall and handles the legal affairs of the town. Also, is in charge of prosecuting the people who attempt to harm the well-being of the city, etc. Um, Actually, the spin on this reply is that the person who is complaining, right? So myself, is actually one who damaged the city. So we're going to use this as the role. And if you see, we start with this. We start with this role, and then we leave everything else. This is um, default format that for everyone who uses this kind of role prompting, they will put first the role that they want to play as with the AI. They want the role that they want the AI to play as, right, in order to respond, and then they put everything else. So let's do role one. Let's create branch. So it's replying, and here we see how the response changed, right, to show what we added on top. Open investigation, damage of the street was caused by you, etc. Um, Contribute to repair. Actually, in some of the instances that we try this prompt, actually, since it's a lawyer, it decided that it was going to take legal action, etc. So you can play around. I mean, if we added more details on the personality of the role that we are assigning, we could maybe make it more extreme or make it softer on the response. But this is the idea. You can change the way that the AI behaves, right? By adding some kind of role at the start of the prompt. Um, Fede, do you want to continue with the chain of
Yeah.
thought? Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to continue with the other technique that is called chain of thought. Basically, it tries to make the AI think step by step of the task it has to perform. With this means like there are some tasks that are probably some logic intensive tasks that it might fail. So with some guidance, it could think over the steps and it could think about what it had to do to get the final result. So let me just, I'm going to copy this because we have little time. This is a simple problem. I have a text that is really short and it counts 21 words, right? Um, this in fact has 21 words. This, as you can see, this might fail. Let me again. Okay, you can see that the answer changes. It says that it has 22 words. It has 20 words. It really doesn't know what's going on. It is a problem really typical with this because words are not a thing to the AI. They are counting on tokens. That's another problem. But let's just use this as a step to show how it might work to use a chain of thought. So this program just give a text and a question. I'm going to do the same with the same test and the same question, but I'm going to give it some steps that it could use to think about the question. Okay, so the steps I gave it was generate a list of words, giving an index, then use the word count plus index 1 because it starts on 0, and then use that as an answer. As you can see here, it just did that, the first step, the second step, and the third step. I'm trying to here to show the different steps so everyone can see it. And if I try to regenerate this response, it might change the way that it works because it can do it like this, it can do it another way, but it always does the same. It always comes to the same answer that is 21, that is the correct answer. So as you see here, with this technique, we are using different steps that these steps can be like this, that I give the steps, or I can give an example of how I would do this by myself to make the AI generate an abstraction of what I'm doing and generate the step by itself. In this case, I'm going to give explicit steps, right? So I'm going to do it one more time. As you can see here, it always gets the 21, that is the correct answer. This is chain of thought. Basically, is to guide the AI to think about the steps that it has to go through to get to the task done. Another way to do this is do the same, but instead of picking the steps, you can you can think about this problem step by step, and the AI is going to try to do the same, but that might fail. So if you have the steps that you know they work for this task, it's probably better to give it explicitly the steps. And
Amazing.
we can go with something else, right?
Yeah, let's continue with the next one. But it's amazing that if you give time, right, to the AI to think or to analyze every step, it will perform the task in a correct way. But if you do it just in a rush, like just ask everything at the same time, like count the words without any kind of step by step on how to do it, it will fail.
Yeah.
It's actually amazing. Okay, so another technique, and actually, let's address one of the questions by Iago Rodriguez in the chat. He asked, "Can you list specifically what techniques have you used during the workshop, and in the case you have it handy, where you have some place to read about them?" There are some resources that we saw. I have one here at hand that discusses a lot of prompting techniques. Actually, there here for this workshop we just chose three that are word prompting, chain of thought, at the one that is going to follow, that is a few shots, because LLMs and ChatGPT, actually, since they became so smart, we could say, they don't need you to ask them in with those techniques, and just by asking with regular language without some kind of encapsulation or some kind of structure, it's going to work. So there are some techniques that actually fell out the wagon, we could say. But here I can share a link of promptingguide.ai that has several techniques and techniques that were used in previous for previous models, and they work pretty well. Okay, amazing. Let's continue with the next one, that is few shots. And this is the last technique that we are going to discuss, at least in this workshop. And here we are going to go with just a fun, yeah, it's a fun example about cats. So let me copy it, because it has emojis and it's kind of hard to write it down. So here it is. We have some examples. Few shots. What it means is that you give the AI some examples on how you want to reply, right? And here we see that we have some kind of structure. We have the example, then we have the examples wrapped in these dashes. Actually, you don't need to use dashes. You can use hashes or whatever symbol you want. We use dashes because the community uses dashes, and that proved that the AI understand, and and it performs well using those symbols. But actually, there is no hard-coded rule there, and it's just something that people realize that it works well, as Fede said in the beginning of the workshop. So here we have three examples where we have some negative thing, where the cat fell out of the table, so the reaction is a sad face. Then the cat got a new toy, so it's happy, and the cat got a new friend, and it's happy. So and the important thing is that we want only the AI only to reply using these two emojis, and we ask for a new idea. And the idea is that the cat broke a leg. So the AI reacts with a sad emoji. We can go ahead and do it once more. For example, the cat, I don't know, uh, got a new fish, for example, and it's happy. Okay, apparently the cat is happy. Okay, so we can share that with you also. Fede, I believe you had one example with few shots.
Yeah, I have one more example that is going to be more complicated, at least a bit longer, that is going to involve both techniques, few shots and chain of thoughts. As you can see here, I just copy it because it's really long. This is a scene that I'm asked earlier. I asked ChatGPT to generate a scene for a movie about two Vikings. So I just copy the text of the scene. Then I added some DALI prompt examples. It's just generate an image of cute dog or whatever. Generate an image as house in front or house in background, straight houses. This is the few shot because I'm giving example of how I want the answer to be, right? And then I give it the steps I want to work because first I want to summarize. Of that summary, I want to generate a visual description in a still frame, and that is going to be used to construct the DALI prompt, right? So let's see how this works. It's writing the summary first. It's writing the still frame from which I'm going to generate the image. And as you can see here, it generated a prompt that we're going to try to see if it works in Stable Diffusion. The Stable Diffusion is one of the models of text to image. Let's see what we get here. Hopefully, it won't take too long. There you go. Okay, so
Just for
uh,
the audience,
yeah,
because they are Yago is asking what is DALI, and DALI is an
no,
image generation tool. It's an AI that with some input text, it will generate an image. And here Fede is using some other of this tool that is takes in as an input some kind of a string or some kind of text, and it will output an image. Fede, sorry.
exactly. In the case it's Stable Diffusion that is like the open source version of DALI. DALI was the first to come, then came Stable M, and they decided to make a version that is open source. Okay,
Exactly.
so with these three techniques that we're talking about, you can get a lot of good results. With every iteration of the model of ChatGPT, they start doing like more with the training. We start getting better results without resourcing to these techniques. Like there are a few techniques that, as JC told earlier, that are not being used anymore. But we have this now, and we'll probably get another ones with every new models that comes out.
Exactly. So those are the methods that we selected for the first workshop. Um, if I don't know if the audience has any questions. I think the chat there isn't any. Okay. Okay, so just keep in mind that there are several more, and for sure that there are ways that are not structured, right? You can just chat with GPT and choose and get your replies by chatting and iterating. Also, there are some other ways of chain of thought that you could think of, like if you go over by sending a message and then getting the reply and then sending another message. That if you structure in a way that you make the model think, that could be considered also chain of thought. But let us finish with this one. And since this is an introduction to the ChatGPT, let me show you this last idea. We have to talk about hallucinations. Here I'm the on this at this chat that we have already made public. Let me share with you so you can check it out. Workshop. Um, let's call it workshop. Sorry, I was pasting the link in the chat. And so here at the end we have this branch for hallucinations, because for example for the developers that are there, I'm asking here um, for an app or a code that for a Vite app and Webpack, right? For everybody who knows, Byte and Vite actually and Webpack are bundlers, right? They're a pretty, maybe a little bit more complex than that, but that's the idea. I mean, they are pretty much the same. So the AI here is happy to provide a response for an app with Vite and Webpack. And actually, they are not compatible. I mean, you cannot use those two libraries to work together. Um, and if you see here, apparently what it's doing is to generate something, and I didn't try it. Maybe it works. I don't know. I don't actually know, but in the core concept, this shouldn't work because those things are not aimed to be used together, and they shouldn't work. So if you see here, I added this role for the AI to be an AI assistant in coding, that is happy to help any developer with any coding task. Right? That's the idea that the role that we gave the AI. And then I have this subsequent iteration of this prompt where I changed the role, and I asked for an expert developer to give the AI the role of an expert developer that knows the inner workings of Webpack, Vite, and compatibility, etc. And I asked for the same prompt. And here you see the reply that is actually more that is real, right? I mean, uh, I cannot provide the code because Byte and Webpack are two different build tools that serve different purposes, and it's not recommended to use them together. Actually, you could use them together, but it's, I mean, it's like you have two tools that do the same for the in the same repository, so it doesn't make sense. The idea here, right, is that the AI here replied super confident that the reply that it was given was correct. And it's not that the AI is wrong. I mean, it's just generated text, right? The thing behind this is that it can generate things that are wrong, and those things are called hallucinations. Like it hallucinated that it could mix these two libraries together because it just was optimistic enough, I guess. I don't know, Fede, if you want to add anything about this.
No, on this subject, but I have a question from Mauricio
Yeah.
that is saying, is it same to change the prompt and iterating over the sending the whole prompt again or relating to next question to the previous? Yeah, it's the same, but you have to take in account that when you use ChatGPT, you have like a context window. So you have to remember as always that you have like 4,000 tokens. So any response that you get in the middle is going to count to that token. So when you get to some point, you might be start losing context. So you can use iteration over the chat. Like I got the like when I talk about the email, I send the first instruction, give me an email, and then after the response, I said, okay, make it shorter or make it like 60 words, and iterate it like that. It would work. But if you start with something really long, you might get without tokens and you start losing context. So the best way to work is do like you go with question answer, and then get all the answers in one prompt and try that prompt all together. I think that answered your question, JC. If you have anything else.
No, I guess we are done for this session.
Maybe we
We,
can talk about the next workshop. If any have, we'll probably be doing something more use case, no something like this. We're going to get hands dirty on working from scratch, like doing a Chrome extension, or I don't know any ideas, but it's going to be a use case from beginning to end and using the AI to generate code and to generate the information from text or whatever.
yeah, we have some ideas on what the following sessions are going to be. Maybe one is going to be next week, or maybe the next one to that one. Um, Probably we are going to be designing a POC with using ChatGPT. Uh, then we have an idea to include an AI functionality into an existing application. And also, we are going to use it to parse documents or extract data from some data source, for example, like could be PDFs or something that is hard to parse in some other way. Um, so thank you everybody for joining us today. This is our first workshop. I hope that you enjoyed it. Um, as you see, we are not experts on streaming, but yeah, we are going to keep trying. Um, yeah, expect some technical difficulties in the following sessions for sure.
Yeah.
but yeah, also we have prompt tree that you can use it, and also if you want to contribute, I'm just going to say that if you want to contribute, you can share. Thank you for the slide of the technical difficulties, fair. But prompt tree, we have it on GitHub open source. If you want to contribute, you can add whatever feature you want. You can suggest new features and contribute onto it. We believe that is actually a good tool to iterate over prompts and to actually to help us on the workshops. As you said, as you saw, we can move between branches and then share it with you. You can fork it and then play around with the things that we go around doing. So yeah, thank you everybody.
Wait,
Thank you,
and
Fede.
before we
Yeah,
leave, I'm going to address one message that is really important, and we forgot to talk about this.
yeah,
It's about privacy recommendation for using AIs. We're going to
yeah,
talk about next sessions about this, but you have to really know that you can send any information to this. This is a private company. All this information is being stored, it's being used to train the model. You have to be really careful of what you use in your chat sessions. I think, yeah, like 3 days ago, Samsung banned all the use of ChatGPT on all the company devices because they have a really big leak of information on ChatGPT. So take that on account and think about privacy.
yeah. Thank you, Fede, for the reminder. Yeah. Actually, there are some differences between using ChatGPT and sending private information there or PIIs, and into sending them into the API. But as a rule of thumb, you shouldn't send any kind of private information or proprietary information into these systems because we don't know. We don't know yet if we can trust them. And so let's use them. Let's be more productive, but let's be safe for now on how to use these technologies.
Okay. Thank you for all your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody. See
Bye
you
bye.
next week.